morning. Welcome back to my channel. It's a Sunday. I don't normally film on a Sunday, but I didn't get a chance to do anything on Friday, unfortunately. So we're going to head into the greenhouse because I have a few jobs that I need to do today, and I thought I would take you with me. And you can have a look at the progress in the greenhouse of the seeds that I sowed a little while ago, and I've actually sowed some more since then. I've also got a little bit to do in the garden. There's some things to harvest. Snow peas, sugar snap peas are going off, so I really need to get out there and harvest some, and I think I may have some asparagus as well. So I'll take you with me and show you what I'm getting up to today out in the garden. It's a little bit cloudy, but hopefully not going to rain too much today. All right, so I'll meet you in the greenhouse. Alrighty, here we are in the greenhouse, and I've got a lot of seedlings that actually I'm just looking at them now, and quite a few of them really need to be transplanted out in the garden, and I haven't quite got a plan for some of them yet, so I think I'm going to be winging it. But just to give you a little bit of an update on how things are going, I sowed some tomato and capsicum seeds. I think I did a video about sowing seeds, and I did them at that stage. They are actually all looking really good. If you have a look, got some pretty decent sized tomato plants. The capsicums, I've got one here that's not too bad, but they're still probably a little on the small side yet to put in the garden, but not too far away. And some of the tomato seeds didn't actually germinate. I've had a few seeds that haven't germinated. I'm not quite sure why, but I did re-sow some seeds. Actually, oh good, one of them has come up. This is a tomato, which I really wanted to try this year. It's apparently a really, really top tasting tomato. So it didn't germinate, but I re-sowed some seeds, and as you can see, I've actually got some germination happening, which I'm very pleased. The other one that hasn't, and I'm still not seeing anything just yet, is the Hungarian heart. And I really did like that. I wanted that for the greenhouse, but that I re-sowed it, still not really seeing anything just yet. Everything else has germinated. Some have been a little bit slow, but they're getting there. I've got more tomatoes that I sowed a little bit later, so they're a lot smaller. But I will show you, I've sowed these. These are to go out in the garden, so they'll go out later, probably in another month. So I sowed them in these little seed trays, but they are ready to come out and go into something a little bit bigger until they're ready to go in the garden. So that is definitely something that I need to do today. Pumpkins, you can see quite a few pumpkins have germinated. They're looking good. This one not so good. I don't actually know. Maybe there was something wrong with this, but you can see it's just a little yellow thing. It's clearly not a very healthy germination, so I don't think we'll be doing much with that. And the butternut pumpkins were a little bit slow, but I didn't think they were going to germinate, but they are now just starting to come up. So that's good. Flowers. Oh, I have so many flowers. I'm excited because I wanted to grow a lot of flowers. I've actually so this is one of the seed trays that I did of flowers. I've actually already planted some of these. What have we got? So there were some nasturtiums. I've already planted those out in the garden. I actually put them under some new fruit trees that we planted. We've got Love in a Mist, which is the Nigella. So I got quite a few of those. This here, these are really ready to go out. You can only got 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 of those. Something happened in the middle there. That's a cornflower. These here are, what were they? Straw flower. I've never grown those before, but they're ready to go out. And the other thing that I have had issues with is the marigolds. Now, maybe that's a marigold. I did re-sow the seeds because none of them germinated. That might be one. Maybe we're going to get some, but this is the third time I've tried growing marigolds and the seeds just haven't been germinating, even though they are in date. So maybe, I don't know, maybe they're just a faulty lot. So these I have been placing outside to harden off. So if you're not sure what to do, if you have raised seedlings yourself in a greenhouse or inside, what you need to do is slowly introduce them to being outside. And I would even do this with plants or seedlings that you buy from a garden centre because they're generally in a very protected environment. So when you get them home, before they're ready to be planted, I would keep them outside for a little while. I usually start off with keeping them out during the day, then bringing them in at night, particularly if I know it's going to be a cold night, and then gradually work towards getting them to stay out day and night. It's most important, I think, for things like your warm-loving plants like tomatoes, capsicums, pumpkins, zucchinis, and so on, because they will be quite shocked. They're going for this beautiful warm environment, and then they go out into the garden where the weather varies. You've got wind and all those sorts of things. So so slowly take them out. I take them out during the day in a protected area. You need to remember that they are still seedlings and they're in very shallow trays, so they will dry out really quickly if they're out in wind and sun. So I put them in a protected spot but still outside and get them used to the fluctuations and a bit of wind and things like that. And then I'll keep them overnight. I actually think I've already planted out some of these flowers outside without really even hardening them off, and they're fine. But I definitely will do that for the warm loving plants like the capsicums, and capsicums will be in here, so that doesn't matter, but definitely the things like the zucchinis, pumpkins and tomatoes, I will gradually introduce them to outside. I don't have to do that for the ones that I'm going to be planting out that are ready, the tomatoes and the capsicums, because they're actually staying here in the greenhouse. So it doesn't really matter. I have had the windows open a little bit, so there has been some breeze and some fluctuations in temperature for the plants, just because it was getting a little bit too hot in here. We had a few warm days. But yeah, that's kind of the process of what I go through. But these flowers are definitely ready. I've also got lots of zinnias. There were a couple that didn't germinate, so these I re-sowed, and they're just coming up now. More zinnias. These are probably ready to go out in the garden. Again, there were a couple in here that didn't germinate, and I just re-sowed them, and now I've got some popping up. I planted, these were given to me. I can't even remember who gave them to me. They were from Bunnings, not sponsored by Bunnings, but they were like little seed, like a little envelope thing, and they had these little cardboard sticks. I don't know if you can see that, but see these little cardboard sticks, and they've got, they had seeds embedded in them, and then you just stick them into some seed raising mix and water them. I've had them for quite some time, so I really didn't think that they would germinate, and they have. All of them have, actually. So these are snapdragons. Haven't grown snapdragons in a very long time, so I'm excited about that. I've got 3 lots of those. And these are dianthus, which have also germinated quite well. So I'm quite surprised. I didn't know how old those seeds were, but they've all done well. Got plenty of celery. In fact, I probably need to thin these out. got celery. There was some lettuce in here. I've already planted that out in the garden because that grew very quickly. And lettuce is fine with cooler weather, so I didn't really have to wait for it to get warm. What else do I have? Oh, I have dill. So not all of them germinated, but I've got plenty of dill plants there that I can plant out. And I also have some basil. So I planted some basil and they're all coming up a little bit slower, but they do like the warmth. I've been sitting them right near the window here in the greenhouse so they get lots of warmth. I have more capsicums. So these are looking pretty good. I'll give them a little bit longer and then they will go out here into the greenhouse. I've got a couple of things growing in the greenhouse that I probably need to be pulled out before these can go in, but I have got space for the cucumbers, the tomatoes. Can't think today. All right, and I did a second tray of flowers because I just decided I want more flowers. So here's my second tray, which really they're nearly ready. I've got some zinnias, more zinnias, got some nasturtiums. These big ones here are borage, blue borage. They're really, really good plants. They grow into quite a big bush, and they're great for attracting bees. Wonderful blue borage. And this is chamomile. So I've grew some in a pot last year to just test it out. And yeah, I'm going to grow some more this time round. So these are probably ready to be going out into the garden. I will sit them outside today and see how they go. So these are the cauliflower. They are mini cauliflowers, so they only grow small mini heads, but as you can see, they still are quite a decent sized plant. So the leaves and everything are quite big, but it's just that the head will be smaller. So I'm just going to show you. I had a look the other day. There is a cauliflower growing in there. Can you see that? Look at that. Yeah, that's actually a fairly good size. It'll get a little bit bigger, so that won't be too far off. And let's have a look in this one. This one's a bit more tightly curled, actually. No, I can't really see in there, but I can feel that there is a head in there. My celery over here. So this is the celery that's been growing in the greenhouse. And you can see that I've got some pretty good stems there. There's actually been a mushroom growing in the middle there. I don't know if you can. Can you see that? You can see that in there. Oh no, in there. So there's been a mushroom growing in there, but yeah, you can see there's good stalks here for celery, and the tops of the celery I can also freeze, so I can use that for making stock and so on. But otherwise, I've got free space. I've got a little bit of weeding to do, but free space through here to put my tomatoes in. And out in the garden, in this raised bed, I have more cauliflower. These are maybe not quite as advanced. The leaves are just starting to curl, which means that it's going to start a head, but I can't really feel much of a head yet. So they're a little bit behind. So I've got 3 there. There's plenty of lettuce. This has just been popping up everywhere. It's self-seeded. And I did plant some beetroot seeds, and you can see, oh, that's a weed, but you can see that I've got beetroot growing as well. And you can see the celery here as well. There's plenty of really good celery stalks there that I can harvest. So that's looking good. I don't know. This looks like, I don't know what this is, but it's got these beautiful flowers. Look at that. These are just been popping up. I don't know what they are. I really should do my research and have a look, but there's also some here. They look, are they a poppy or something? I'm not sure. But yeah, look at these. Is it a weed? It looks too pretty to be a weed, but who would know? They've just been randomly growing in these. I'm trying to think, did I plant something last year that maybe self-seeded, but I don't remember growing anything that looked like that. Anyway, I think they're pretty, whether they're a weed or not. This is like overgrown. This bed, I really need to do something about it. I've got carrots, which again, I've got lots of leafy green tops, but I've been having a look inside and I still don't know if they're ready to harvest. I'm not really sure how they're going. Anyway, so we'll have plenty of celery and plenty of cauliflower coming very soon. I also wanted to show you my rhubarb, which I was having issues with where it was planted before out in the garden, and I transplanted it here into this raised bed, and it is looking great. It's got new leaves. It's starting to grow some stalks. Yeah, pretty happy with that. So hopefully it's going to be much happier here in this garden. And here are my sugar snap peas. I was out here literally just a day or two ago, 2 days I think, and look how many I've got. There are so many sugar snap peas, and they're absolutely delicious. That's a weed. I need to get rid of that. But yeah, have a look how many sugar snap peas, and there are sort of growing up both sides of the trellis. So there are some on this side as well. So you can see all these sugar snap peas. So I need to come out and harvest all of those. And I also have an asparagus. So I've already harvested a couple of asparagus. And here we go. Here's another one that's ready to harvest. And I've got two more. Excuse the weeds. I was worried about weeding and disturbing the asparagus. So I've kind of weeded around and not in that section. But there's two more about to pop up there. If you, that one's not quite, that's not going to be quite right. But if you see this thin one here, that actually is an asparagus. And when you first grow asparagus, that's what will grow, this really thin thing with the leaves on the top. And you should just leave those. So leave it until it kind of grows and dies off, and then you can cut it back after it's died off, and that will help to put energy back into the crown of the asparagus plant. And after a year or two, you'll get asparagus that looks like this. So it does take a couple of years to actually start getting. This is my first real harvest of asparagus. But you'll see that you will still get some of these little thin things, and I'm just going to leave those and let them do their thing, which means then that I'll have more asparagus as the years go on. Oh, there's actually another one just coming up here too. These are the ones that I've harvested. I've harvested that one and that one. But yeah, pretty happy about that. That's my first sort of real decent crop of asparagus. The other thing I wanted to show you is I did mention that this area here, which is where we had our potato patch, that we were going to build some raised beds this summer. And my husband has already started and not too far off finishing, believe it or not. So this was done last weekend. I'll flip it around so I can show you properly. So it will be a U shape, so it'll go up there, across and down here. So this sheet needs to come across here, and this area is where I will walk in to be able to access. It's fairly wide across here, but I can reach to the middle here, and then if I stand on the outside I can reach into the middle. But yeah, we've got one more sheet to put up along here. Otherwise that is nearly done, and obviously we'll need some sheets of corrugated iron across the front, but we're going to try to fill these first with wheelbarrows of stuff before we fill in the front. We thought that would be easier to try to fill in as much as we can before we fill the front in. Now, when you're doing raised beds, your vegetables really only need about 30 to 40 centimeters of good soil to grow. So all the soil down the bottom here, and there is a fair bit to fill now that I look at it, we will fill this with all sorts of things: branches, leaves, soil that's not really all that good. We'll just source some from around our property, and we'll fill all of this in and then put good soil, manure, and compost just on the top part. So really probably from about here up, and the rest we'll just fill with whatever. So it is a fair bit to fill, but we won't fill it all with good garden soil. It'll be filled with all sorts of things. So I'll show you that process when we get to it, but that is taking shape. Pretty happy about that. And then if we come over, this is the other raised bed, and these here are snow peas that are growing. So at first I thought that they got knocked around a little bit by the winds that we had a little while back, but they're actually looking okay. There's plenty of flowers on there. There's a few that's ready to pick. Yeah, they're starting to produce now. And like I said, with any of these things, beans, peas, and so on, the more you harvest, the more the plant will produce, because a plant's job is to reproduce. So it's to produce seed to create more plants. So if you harvest this that has the seed in it, the plant will think, oh, I need to produce more flowers and more seed, and it will continue to produce more food for you. These are the lettuce that I planted, that I sowed the seed, so they're actually looking really good. We've had a bit of rain recently, which certainly helps. And I just wanted to show you my sage. Have a look at this. It's going to flower. These beautiful purple flowers. I think that's going to be so pretty once all those flowers open up. So that was a pretty good harvest so far. There's plenty more coming. Some were a little bit too young, but I've got a container of sugar snap peas, plenty of them in there. So they'll be eaten this week, delicious, and a beautiful asparagus. So I'll be having that. I think I do have another one that I cut, that I harvested the other day, that's in the fridge. So they'll be included with my eggs for breakfast this week. So now it's time for me to give these seedlings a water because they are due for watering. And then I'm going to work on planting out the tomatoes into the greenhouse here. And I'm going to take these trays of flowers outside and have them sitting outside for a bit. Then I need to have a think about a plan of where I'm putting all these things. One thing I just wanted to mention while I was watering my seedlings is the vacant patches in my raised beds in my greenhouse. I have been watering as well. Now, you might sort of think, that's kind of weird. Why would you water the soil where there isn't any plants? But what you need to remember in a greenhouse is you don't get any rain or any moisture from, overnight condensation and so on in a greenhouse. So the soil can really dry out, and we don't want that, particularly as we're preparing to plant our tomatoes and capsicums. We don't want the soil to be dry. The other thing to remember is soil is a living thing. It's not just dirt. It's alive, and it has. I've put manure and other things on here. You can see there's little mushrooms and other fungi growing. There will be worms and bugs and all sorts of little microorganisms. So soil is alive, and it's meant to be alive. It's meant to be like an ecosystem. It's not just dirt. And in order for it to be alive and to have all these, beneficial organisms, then it needs moisture. And because we're in a greenhouse and it's covered and it's warm, that soil will all just dry out, which will mean then the life that lives in the soil will not be able to, stay alive. They'll die off. And that will mean that my soil is no longer an active ecosystem. So I've been watering the soil where there's no plants in preparation for the fact that I will be planting in there, and I want to keep the soil alive. I want the soil to be a living ecosystem that will benefit my plants, and that's going to need moisture. All living things need water, don't they? So I have been watering this patch of soil to make sure that it's nice and moist and has all those lovely living organisms for when I plant my plants, and that will help to keep them healthy. It's just a little tip if you have a greenhouse, is don't forget to water the soil, even the bare bits that don't have plants.